please. Thank you.
Alexander,
Yes.
Henry,
Yes.
Cumin,
Yes.
Lentine,
Here.
Lewis, Morgan, O'Toole.
Motion to excuse councilpersons O'Toole and Morgan.
Second.
Alexander,
Yes.
Henry,
Yes.
Cumin,
Yes.
Lentine,
Yes.
Lewis.
Entertain a motion to excuse Donna Korniski.
Alexander,
Yes.
Henry,
Yes.
Cumin,
Yes.
Lentine,
Yes.
Lewis.
Entertain a motion to accept the consent agenda.
So moved. Second.
Alexander,
Yes.
Henry,
Yes.
Cumin,
Yes.
Lentine,
Yes.
Lewis.
Motion to accept the meeting, the minutes of the January 27th city council meeting. It was in the agenda.
Reports.
Oh, yes, thank you. Reports, Mayor, please. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm pleased to announce that we have a couple of new people that joined us today. Valerie Stevenson, our payroll clerk, and James Uranka, our assistant building commissioner. We planning to add another person, a part-time person in accounts payable next week, starting Tuesday, Georgette Hodges. I was also pleased to submit the balanced budget to the council during our working session of finance meeting. And we'll have more details at the finance committee. We'll cover some details in appropriations at that time. And hopefully we'll have a summary and the details in the appropriations for the next council meeting.
I also forgot to remember to announce that we're going to have a meeting also in February, right? Town Hall?
Yes, town hall meeting is, it's not, well, it's, okay. Sorry. It's a roundtable community discussions on September the 25th.
That's February, right?
February 25th.
Okay. Thank you, because I forgot the date.
Yeah, it's Wednesday.
Thank you. And what time? 7:30?
And it's 7 o'clock, 8:30.
Thank you.
We also have working on the city edition. Hopefully that'll be going to press here this week. Mailed next week. That completes my report. I'm happy to comment as we go along.
Thank you. Fire Chief Newman?
Thank you, Council President, Mayor Roche, members of council. Some statistics in our fire department year to date. Our total calls are at 179. 146 of those, or 81.6%, are EMS. We're averaging about 5.8 calls for service each shift. Our statistics, coincidentally, are down 5.8% over the same reporting period in 2014. Our EMS calls are at 146, 81.6%. Our 3 area nursing homes account for 20% of our total call volume. Our fire service calls are at 33, with 2 of them being structure fires. About 15% of the time, we receive simultaneous calls, what I call overlapping calls. We've had 26 of those year to date. Our year-to-date revenues for EMS transport is at $11,082. In 2014, for the same reporting period, it was at $34,610. The reason isn't because we're not billing out more or we're not running more calls. It's because there's been a software transition in the patient care report that our medics file. This is system-wide through University Hospital. They've gone from a report writing system called EMS Charts to one that's called Sanzio. Our billing company, which also bills most departments in this region, is getting up to speed, so the revenues should be back to a more normal area by middle of the month.
Chief, so are you saying that they're not being recorded, or you're saying that they're not billing because the software is not up to par?
No, the software hasn't been rectified to the billing company, so they're still working through the new application. And it's system-wide. It's every fire department that UH has med control over at this point in time. The old reporting system EMS charts, there was some challenges with the vendor, and UH had to migrate away from it. So this was the reporting company that UH has decided or elected to go with. We've been in the system now 30 days, so it's still getting up to speed. Our year-to-date overtime in 2015 is at $9,194. That's 210 hours of overtime. It is an increase over last year of $3,365, mainly because we had the Christmas holiday included in this reporting period. So it's a little, hopefully that will balance out as well. And we also had one firefighter who's been off on extended medical leave since the Christmas holiday. Our year-to-date supplemental staffing cost, that's overtime and part-time, is $11,592. We had a CPR course on Monday. We trained and certified 6 members of the community. It was a good class. We offer the classes in partnership with University Hospital. Our next class is scheduled for Monday, April 13th, 2015. We do these bi-monthly. That'll also be in the City Edition. We'll put news about that in the City Edition and on our website. And that concludes my report for this evening. If anybody has any questions.
Thank you. Police Chief Rowe?
Thank you, Madam Chairman, Mayor, members of council, and residents. I guess I did want to say that we had a rather busy week last week with the weather, and I did want to report that we had switched over from getting cars to SUVs. The last 3 vehicles we've purchased have been Explorers that are all-wheel drive, and it's choosing to be a good decision because they are actually helping people get out of snow drifts and being able to push them with the push bumpers, which with the Crown Victoria cars, we had enough trouble just staying on the road ourselves. So it came in handy. I think it saved a lot of people having to call tow trucks, and a lot of people aggravation that we were able to help, where in the past we really weren't able to offer that assistance because, like I said, we had enough trouble keeping on the road ourselves. So that's the good news. Our Part 1 crimes so far this year compared to last year are up by 17. Our burglaries are down by 5, which is what our highest figure was last year, so the burglaries are definitely down. Our thefts are on the way back up. There seems to be an increase in activity at Richmond Town Square, particularly Macy's. I don't know if they're going there because it's not a business sale or what, but definitely shoplifters have picked up. I have some other statistics for calls. I think it's too early in the year to make too much of it. Our calls for service are up about 8%. Again, a lot of that I think is weather related. Our arrests are up 20%. That again relates probably to the activity with the shoplifters. Our CAT entries, which are a measure of all of our police activity, is up 3%. Our overtime's up 16%, or 27 hours. Our awarded time, which is time that officers receive for court, range, early reporting, is down 23 hours, or 13%. So the difference is actually an additional $594 this year compared with last year. The mall has accounted for 5.7% of our calls for service and 20% of our arrests. Our 3 apartment complexes have accounted for 21% of our calls for service. And that's all I have.
How does those calls from the apartments compare to last year, do you know?
No, I'm not sure. I'd have to check. It appears to me to be the same. It was right around between 20 and 22% all last year, and we're about in the same place.
Thank you. All right, then, we will move to Building Commissioner Seawold.
Thank you, Madam President, and the Mayor and members of council and citizens. Just a very brief report. We're happy, as the Mayor said, to have Assistant Building Commissioner Jim Uranker back in our department. He was back for his first full day today and getting right back into the swing of things quickly. Statistic-wise, just a couple of things that I wanted to bring up. On our business registrations, we have hit a saturation of about 98.5% with 280 businesses registering at the cost of $60,750, and only 14 businesses yet to be registered at the low cost of $1,074. So we've hit practically 100%. And rental registrations are at about 21,000, so we're doing very well on those two. Building permits for a very cold, snowy month of January are 35, so that's really not bad considering that construction is not a big business in January in Cleveland. So that's all I have to report today.
Thank you.
Madam Chairman?
Yes.
May I ask a question to the building department? Perhaps I should know this, but I don't. Do we have an ordinance, or do we have any leverage on our apartment dwellers or the owners of the apartment houses? For example, at the Richmond Park Apartments, there's a number of apartments that are not able to be lived in. They're just totally destroyed from either water, fire, whatever the problem may be. Can they just leave those apartments vacant and not do anything with them? Or do we have something that in a period of time they have to go in there and at least make them acceptable to the general public? I know that we have a complete wing out at one of the buildings at Richmond Park from a roof being blown off last year, and did a lot of damage to a whole series of apartments right down the corner of this one building. They're just, as far as I know, are just left alone right now, and it has water damage. They might have mold in there. They might have just whatever the problem may be, but they just block it off and walk away from it? Or do they have a requirement to fix it up?
To the extent that those apartments impact the occupying of the rest of the building, they obviously, the condition of those apartments obviously will not be permitted to impact apartments that are still occupied in that building. We can't make them repair any more quickly than they want to. The damage of the
But they do have to
apartments.
repair them, is what I'm saying.
They
They don't
will
have to
eventually
just
have
say,
to
well, you know
repair
what,
them,
I'm
yes.
writing off 10
Right.
apartments, and
Right.
we're not going to fix these things.
As you know, we spent, Jim and I spent pretty much all morning at Richmond Park today looking at the condition of things, and we didn't look at that damaged building. We were in the B building today most of the day.
Mm-hmm.
So, but we will be following up. A large percentage of our time in the coming weeks will be spent at Richmond Park, and I'll be able to answer your question insofar as the amount of money that they're investing and the time that it's going to take. But obviously, we are not going to allow them to allow areas of that building or any building impact apartments that are still rented. So whether that be with smell or with mold or with any other type of impact.
Well, I think my question, and I agree, and I appreciate what you're saying, But do we force them to repair these things? Say, can they just rope them off and say, you know what, these 6 apartments,
Well,
it behooves them to repair them and rent them, I'm sure.
we've talked about the impact of the building code on some of these places, and we're going to have to look into that more thoroughly.
Okay.
I think the simple answer to your question is that the building code requires buildings, all buildings, and all parts of the buildings to be maintained in the condition of their original approval. Now, how we're going to
Make that happen.
apply that to Richmond Park when you're talking, forget about that corner of Building D that got damaged. If we just look at the other parts of other buildings
Mhm.
that need major investment, it's going to be a major impact. I mean, we're going to have to deal with the new owners of that complex and the new management
Mhm.
and see where all this takes us. I'd hate to sit here and make a statement that I'm not going to be able to back up, but we're going to concentrate on the life safety portions of all of those buildings and inspect the suites that are already occupied and make sure that the exits and all of the other features that impact the residents that are still living there are up to par. And then when we get that far, we will certainly continue to concentrate on parts of the building that are not up to par.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Finance Director Mitch McKaylee.
Thank you, Madam President, Mayor Roach, members of council, and citizens. Briefly, and of course the mayor mentioned this already, we're glad to have welcomed Valerie Stevenson for the payroll position today. Georgette Hodge will be coming in on Tuesday. Valerie brings a wealth of experience in payroll. She has had some experience with payroll involving collective bargaining units, so she's familiar with how to interpret contracts and things of that sort. She also has actually done a lot of high volume work, so this might actually be a little bit of a break for her, actually. Georgette will come to us with a wealth of experience, municipal experience, so we'll be looking forward to bringing them both on board and being at full strength for the first time in several months, so very pleased about that. One other thing, and I may have mentioned this before, and if I hadn't, forgive me, but over the last couple of weeks, I've been in contact with Moody's, the bond rating service. Every couple of years, they do what they call a surveillance call. They got in touch with me. They wanted some financial information. Then, middle of last week, they basically had a conference call with the financial advisor for the city and myself. As you know, the last time that the city's debt was rated through Moody's, it was Baa1 with a negative outlook. Pleased to report that they have removed the negative outlook. They did affirm the rating as a Baa1. They kept it the same. I received, you receive a little bit of informal feedback, I guess I could say, during this process. I think that they were essentially being cautious as far as like keeping the rating the same right now. They were pleased with the way the city's finances were trending. And I think they basically are just looking to see that, we continue the positive trend and maintain the stability that we're, currently on with the course that we have. So, as I said, I'm a little bit disappointed they didn't raise the rating, but I'm glad to see the negative outlook on, and I think it's a trend in a positive direction. So, that's essentially what I have to report to.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Service Director is excused for tonight. We will move to City Engineer, Chris Courtney.
Thank you, Madam President, members of council and citizens. I have no formal report this evening. If anybody has any questions, I can try to answer them or run down an answer for you in short order after the meeting.
Mr. Alexander.
When, do you have any idea when they're going to start back up and finish the Highland Road?
I did not know, but I can touch base with the project manager and get some dates for it.
Because there's a couple big things on that hit list, aren't there?
I would expect it won't be until mid-March at the soonest, depending upon what the weather forecast looks like at that point in time.
Thank you.
Then we'll move forward with Economic Development Director, shall I say, Crystal Best.
Thank you, Madam President, Mayor, members of council, members of the community. My report will be brief. I've got some really interesting things going on this week relative to grants that we are going after. Relative to the demolition grant, there is a meeting tomorrow to go over getting the application completed and making sure that it has all the properties listed and that we're able to get as much money towards the demolition of the 4 residences that we've been talking about. Oh, as well as the gas station on Chardon Road. Okay. And so that's tomorrow, and I'm looking forward to that training opportunity. The other thing is on Friday.
Excuse me, Crystal, will you move your mic closer?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Just
Leave it in.
on the stand.
Thank you.
On Friday, I have a meeting with Sarah Parks Jackson at the County Department of Development. She and I are going to discuss the possibility of getting a 2016 Community Development Block Grant to help us with our city plan update. Part of the reason that we're going after the CDBG funds this year is because we are in need of grant support to help us rewrite or at least edit the 2007 planning grant, plan that we had. And unfortunately, this year we did not receive one of the allocations from the county. There were 4 municipalities that did receive an allocation. There were, I can't remember the exact number of municipalities that did apply, but we did not get one of the allocations. However, I think with the help and support and communication with the county Department of Development going forward, we should be in good stead to get some of the CDBG money to help us upgrade our city plan. And then on the 18th of February, we have a meeting with the people at Macy's from Cincinnati, the real estate people, as well as the people from Richmond Town Square to talk about plans for the mall, plans for Macy's, and plans, short-term plans and longer-term plans. So I'm really looking forward to that meeting and getting some more clarification as to what the plan will be going forward. Just as an overview of some of the outreach I've been doing, I had an opportunity about a week and a half ago to go over to Omni Systems, which is in the Highland Road commercial not plaza, but business complex. And I'm really pleased that over there are 96 employees working in 3 different shifts, and they make labels for all kinds of packaging materials. The ones that are most familiar are probably Tyson's Foods and Amazon, and they use their labels, and their labels go all around the country and some places internationally. They were really, really positive about what they're doing, and positive about Richmond Heights. They said they'd like to have more restaurants, but I'm encouraged because that's an example of a business park that's almost completely occupied. The other business in that plaza
the audience. Do I have any comments or suggestions? Rita?
Well, one concern I had was kind of addressed that on Highland Road going, I don't, east, west, north, and south, I don't know how to, going down the hill, you can't see any striping. There's no snow, so today it was like there's no striping. There's very little striping when you come up the hill. So, but I'm sure that will be addressed like in March. A slight change is that the audience participation come at the very end of the meeting because ordinances have not been discussed. So discussed and voted on or something, the audience could maybe make a statement or two about them. It's just like I'm in the middle audience, but that's a minor point. My real concern is I hope Council President has about when the ordinances are read during the council meeting, that there just be a brief few words said as to the ordinance or resolution. That way the audience, audience because it's being videotaped, since they voted to have the council recorded so they could just sit in their home, they will have more of an idea of what the ordinance or resolution is. That way they don't have to read the council of the whole minutes or the minutes or attend the council of the whole meeting. So I hope, there's a brief discussion.
So you're asking for a brief discussion, though, right?
No, not discussion, a brief explanation, I should say.
We read it, when that little summary, it's the first line of whatever the legislation is about, or 2 or 3 or 4 lines. If you look at all of this, it's usually a couple of lines.
Well, see, one example is like a couple of weeks ago, there was like one sentence, and it talked about the fee schedule of the building department. From having gone to the council at whole, there's going to be a lessening and the reasoning why and, blah, blah, blah. So I knew, and council read the ordinance, just voted. And it's like, well, what did they vote on? They're changing something.
Right.
And so that's all I'm suggesting.
Okay, if there's a one-liner, we'll add a little bit more to it. But I did do some research on this, and it is practice of many this way. You read the legislation, a summary of what that is, and then you vote on it. Because in the committee of the whole, we've spent the time discussing it, and we've also discussed it in the various committees.
Right, but I think that the voters, because I would imagine at least 1,000 people voted to have it taped, and there were never 1,000 people here, probably 60, and so I would think the voters were saying, gee, I'm going to learn a lot about what goes on in ordinance. You're going to tape the council meeting, but if you don't discuss the ordinances, and they're not going to, no one's going to attend the council and then read them in, blah, 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 blah.
Well, if they're not going to do that, that means they're not that interested then, is what you're saying, right?
But they're interested enough to want it taped. That
Right,
way they
right.
figure they would get the
Madam President, if I may,
Yes, you may.
I know we talked about this briefly once before, and I know how you feel, and I understand what you're saying. I don't see a problem at all. The resolution is read by our clerk to have the chairman of that committee just take a sentence or two and just give a very quick explanation exactly this piece of legislation does. It won't take any more than 30 seconds per legislation.
Right. I didn't mean a discussion, excuse me.
No, I don't think we have to say how we voted. It's the recommendation from the chairman of what it should be passed and what it is. It will take 30 seconds. I don't see a problem with that.
Council, if it's your piece of legislation, are you all willing, or would you like to comment on it? Whoever introduces that legislation, that is a comment, that they could make a comment if they would like.
Right.
So if that's what you would like to do, you guys can do that. But we will not hold another committee of whole meeting.
No.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. They are, all the details are there, so, but if someone feels, I mean, it seems like they would like to do that. Thank you. Any more comments, suggestions? All right. Thank you, Vida. Ms. Javion. We will move to, I think it's no old business, new business.
Okay, new business ordinance 11, 2015, introduced by first reading. An ordinance amending sections 1321.03, 1321.04, 1321.05, 1307, 1321.09, and 1325.06 of the building code related to grading requirements and fees.
Okay.
This is just to beef up the final grade requirements. Move directly.
Second the motion.
Alexander?
Yes.
Henry?
Yes.
Cumin?
Yes.
Lentine?
Yes.
Lewis? Alexander?
Yes.
Henry?
Yes.
Lentine?
Yes.
Lewis? Newman?
Yes.
Ordinance 11 passes. On to ordinance 12, 2015, introduced by Alexander, first reading. An ordinance amending section 1105 of the Planning and Zoning Code to amend lot planting requirements.
Mr. Alexander, like to comment?
We'll keep this on first reading, the public hearing, which I'll make a motion later.
For a public hearing.
For a public hearing. Should we make the motion now? I'll make a motion that we have a public hearing at 8:15 beginning of the council meeting.
Second.
Alexander?
Yes.
Henry?
Yes.
Lentine?
Yes.
Lewis?
I forgot to say. Well, this can be helpful.
Ordinance 13, 2015, introduced by Mayor Roach, first reading. An ordinance amending section 181.47 of the, to amend the composition of the Board of Review and declaring an emergency.
Mayor Roach, you like to comment?
Yeah, since the board needs to adjust the director, the president of the council as a member, I would recommend this passage.
Move for suspension.
Second.
Alexander?
Yes.
Henry?
Yes.
Cumin?
Yes.
Lentine?
Yes.
Lewis?
For passage.
Alexander?
Yes.
Henry?
Yes.
Cumin?
Yes.
Lentine?
Yes.
Lewis?
Ordinance number 13, 2015 passes unanimously.
Resolution number 14, 2000, introduced by Mayor Roach, first reading. A resolution authorizing the mayor to enter into a contract with McDonald Equipment Company for inspection, maintenance, and city's emergency generators.
Mayor, would you like to comment?
Sure. Whereas the city is in need of ongoing inspection and maintenance services of the city's emergency generators, I would recommend that we pass this resolution. It's for a one-year term, not to exceed $1,250.
Move for suspension.
Second.
Alexander?
Yes.
Henry?
Yes.
Cumin? Lentine?
Yes.
Lewis?
Move for passage.
Alexander?
Yes.
Henry?
Yes.
Cumin?
Yes.
Lewis?
Resolution number 14, 2015 passes unanimously.
I have a motion.
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion that Betsy Trayvon represent all of council and the mayor at the Ohio City.
Second this motion.
Alexander?
Yes.
Henry?
Yes.
Cumin?
Yes.
Lentine?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Madam President,
Yes.
I also have a motion this evening. I would like to make a motion to ask for an executive tonight for the purpose of, I'm sorry, it will be during the meeting. We'll just adjourn and then come back to, but I would like to make a motion for executive session for the purpose of imminent and threatening legal problems that the city is facing.
Second.
Alexander?
Yes.
Newman?
Yes.
Lewis? Lentine?
Yes.
Thank you. We've completed the business for tonight, so we're going to executive session, and then we'll come back and resume the meeting, but we've taken care of all the business, so we'll have a recess, basically. So if you all, we're done. Thank you. Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Henry?
Yes?
Cuman?
Yes.
Lentine?
Here?
Lewis?
Motion to adjourn?
Meeting adjourned. Thank you.
Nothing?